Welcome to the latest episode of UEC Chronicles. I'm your host for today's episode, Anupama from 3rd year CSE, with our guest Mr. Ravi Kumar from the batch of 1972, who is an entrepreneur and also plays a major role in Rotary. Let's hear a further introduction from himself.
Greetings from Ravi Kumar here. I'm very happy to share a few of my experiences having passed out from University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering in the year 1973, the first batch of semester scheme specializing in electronics and communication engineering. In fact, let me share with you, it was just an accident. I joined engineering course. In 1968, when I passed out, engineering was not having that great employment opportunity. There were only 3 branches: civil, electrical and mechanical. And I joined naturally a physics honors course which was available at that time, and perhaps my thought was I will take up a banking competitive exam and become an officer in a bank. It so happened I just visited my grandmother's brother who retired as a mathematics professor and told him I had joined physics honors program. I was just 17 years. He said, don't do that mistake. I did MA in mathematics way back in 1980 and retired as a professor. So he said, future is for engineering. And I just read yesterday, there was an advertisement by Department of Technical Education about a new course which is being started by Bangalore University, that is in the area of electronics and communication engineering. He said, that has got a future. He said, you forget about your BSc Physics Honors because you may land up doing MSc or take up a job. So immediately I rushed to Department of Technical Education and got the form. The last date was just 1 week away. So I filled up the form, paid the fees, whatever they said, and within 1 week I was called for an interview. And next week I am there attending classes in the month of July. I had already attended about 3 weeks of physics honors program, and now I started attending the first semester scheme batch of electrical electronics as it was known then. The batch was consisting of people who opted for electrical as well as electronics and communication engineering. So like first 4 semesters as usual, even in the earlier scheme called integrated scheme, the first 2 years was common for everybody. 3rd, 4th and 5th year, people used to specialize in specific branches like civil or mechanical or electrical. So same thing happened here. Electrical and electronics were together. Those civil, mechanical were different. We passed out 4th semester. Suddenly there was a rumor that there is no going to be branching out. We were all wondering. We joined the course only because electronics and communication engineering was there. So we all went on representation, spoke with Vice Chancellor, Registrar, and finally, to our happiness, the class was divided into 2, and based on the marks what we got in 4 semesters, plus the option what we had given during admission, based on these 2, a class of 60 plus became 30 plus each. So that's how we started our journey in 5th semester as exclusively Bachelor of Engineering with ECE specialization. So that's how I started. It is more like an accident, but by the time I passed out 4th semester, I almost got into the whole program. Then finally at the end of 10 semesters, I averaged out 70 plus, and the next thing is I could apply in several public sectors and jobs. And because it is the time during 70s, even public sector started opening out schemes called direct recruitment as executive direct recruitment, like we have in UPSC IAS officers and things like that. So I was fortunate that I was the first batch again in public sector recruitment. I got immediately a job immediately after passing out in 73. I wrote competitive exams. I got selected as engineer in Indian telephone industries. Then as R&D engineer, it was really thrilling because that is the time integrated circuits. Then later on in second half of 70s, 4-bit processor, 8-bit processors came in. So we were very much in the cutting edge of technology even in way back in 70s. So it was really, we had a very, it may look challenging time at that time because the technology was very new and you have to learn pretty fast. You have to work competing with the international firms. Like I was into designing and developing telemetry and telecontrol equipments. And our competitors were Siemens, Asia Brown Boveri. So multinationals were our competitors. And government decided that they wanted to indigenize most of this equipment for railways, defense, steel industries, which they were importing earlier. So initially it was challenging for the first 1 year, but slowly we could pick up and apply whatever I learned in the college. And we had, of course, a good bunch of peers, people from IITs and other colleges. So about 70 people were recruited, and I was fortunate to be recruited part of 70s. So that was my journey, and I think for a brief intro it should be good enough. And as a family, we come from a typical middle class family, and fortunately for me, I won the National Merit Scholarship, which was 100 rupees per month. In those days was a pretty big amount, while the fees was only 37 rupees 50 paisa. So I had a pocket money of another 60 plus rupees left with me. It was a great feeling because we could have economic independence as well as we could study. It was really a great experience for 5 years, though it was challenging for a lot of time because I used to cycle all the way I used to live near MG Road and cycle all the way, then go to my grand uncle's place in Malleshwaram where I learned mathematics from him, go across Bangalore to Indian Science Library, Canara Bank Book Lending Library, American Library, British Library, because there is no other way. You have to go and make notes. Electronics was a very new subject. Communication was a very new subject. So, literally I could visit many places in Bangalore because of this, making notes. So, it was, I would say when I look back, it's a great experience and a lot of things I learned during those 5 years.
That's so nice to hear, sir. Like how your journey started by accidentally to the engineering. And yeah, sir, we heard that you have work experiences in Rotary. So, can you share some of those experiences with us?
Yes, Anupama, this is another accident I can say, joining Rotary. See, way back in 1984, I had quit my job from Indian telephone industries and started my own industry. And while I was managing the industry for more than 4 years, in 1988, one of my former colleagues in Indian telephone industries, he wanted to buy a flat. He happened to see one advertisement in the paper, and it so happened the name was familiar to him. He thought it's because I had known him, and he came and asked me, can you take me to that person's house because you seem to be knowing that guy? Yes. That person was Ramanand, my MBA classmate. Later I did my MBA. So when I went to Ramanand's house, taking my friend to talk about the flat that he wanted to sell, it so happened that the deal did not go through, but Ramanand was very happy to meet me after 10 years gap. He asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I am now an entrepreneur. He said, Ravi, in that case, you must join the new Rotary Club which we started, and we are meeting in West End Hotel. So I said, let me try, and that's how I started attending the meeting. Then they said, you should become a regular member. So I thought it will also help me in networking, meeting different types of people because Rotary is a very old organization. It's an international non-profit organization. So I said, okay, they were meeting in West End. So I started attending the meeting and became a subscribing member. And at the time I was pretty busy. I had two startups on hand and I was managing. I was traveling frequently abroad to attend to some of the exhibitions as well as for procurement, looking for orders. So I used to travel 3-4 times a year to Europe and Far East and places like that. So I used to attend some of the Rotary meetings which are taking place in those countries because we had that benefit. Like whenever we go abroad and if there is a Rotary meeting in a hotel or something where I come to know, I just ring up that president of the club and attend the meeting and make good for the attendance, which normally in those days 60% of the meeting we should attend to retain your membership. So I used to attend some of the meetings abroad. So it was okay as I was enjoying my Rotary meetings because it was a break from my regular work. Over a period of time, I decided to come out of business sometime early 2000. So I also, by the time I'd finished about 12 years of my membership in Rotary. So in the year 2000, I was asked to take the presidentship of the club in which I am a member called Rotary Bangalore Koramangala. So I became a president in the year 2000. So Rotary, as some of you may know, it's got more than 36,000 clubs across 200 countries. So normally the clubs function is like any other structured organization. But clubs do most of the jobs which are required for the local community. So that way Rotary helped me a lot in understanding society, societal problems, the type of projects which are required. Over a period of time, I got chairmanship of some of the committees and then became director at the district level. But what attracted me was when I became chairman of committee for eye care called Avoidable Blindness Committee. I got interested because of some of the foreign partners were keen to support the problems in India. So it so happened I started developing projects and started implementing them with the help of some of the eye hospitals. So over a period of time now, for the last nearly 20 years, I've been working on various eye-related projects. And I've been recognized in Rotary with the highest award called Service Above Self Award. So these awards sometimes they motivate you, they make you to do more because the expectations are also increasing when you perform. It's normal. Even in a company when you perform, you'll be given more jobs. It's the same way. Now that last 20 and odd years I've been working in this area and internationally I have gone and given talks in other Rotary clubs. I invited people from other Rotary clubs from Europe, US to our country here. So a lot of things have happened over the last 30 years in Rotary. Rotary has become now integral part of my life because of the service projects what I am involved in. And I think it's a great, again, it all depends on our perception. So I have been wanting to do some service and I think this has been a great platform for me to do the service.
That's so inspiring, sir. Like what you get from the society, it's given back to it. Yeah. So you are an entrepreneur. So what are some of your entrepreneurship initiatives and activities that our audience could learn something from?
Yeah, again, I think again I will talk about another accident which took place when I was an R&D engineer in ITI. So one of my colleagues in ITI in production department called me up and said, Ravi, can you help me in fixing a problem I have with one of the counters which is there in the test bed? He had a problem. So I went along with my other colleague. We tried to sort out and understood the problem. The counter was bought from a company called Keltron, which is a Kerala State Electronics Development Corporation. So when I saw that, we fixed the problem within 1 hour. Then he asked me, Ravi, can you make similar thing? I said, why not? Then he said, I can give you order for 10 numbers if you can make and supply me as a sample. Because I was working as an R&D engineer. My wife was a lecturer in a college. So I started a simple proprietary concern in the name of my wife and said, let me start supplying. So I started a small company called Pace Technology, Processor Automation and Control Engineering. And one of my known friends' company, I asked them to build the products what I had done. That's how what I did in my bedroom, 10 numbers of the digital counters, they were sold to ITI through a friend's company of mine. And the order was something like 10,000 rupees in those days, 1982, 81 or 82. And that was 1/4 of the cost at which he had bought the public sector equipment. He was very much appreciative. So like this, small orders I used to do on a part-time basis where I was R&D engineer in ITI. Evenings when I come back home, I was working for my wife's concern along with one or two friends of mine. It so happened my wife's uncle is a businessman in Bombay. Then he started giving me some small orders. Then he suggested, why not you become a full-time entrepreneur? He invited me to Bombay and he explained me how it's better to be independent rather than working for somebody. So I decided in 84 that better that I become a full-time entrepreneur because my part-time business was fetching me enough profit which was more than my salary in a year. So as a middle class guy, I was not sure about whether I will be successful. But however, I think the numbers spoke, and having the engineering and MBA qualification, I thought I should be able to. So that's how I came out of ITA. Then I started one more company with the printed circuit board supplier who was supplying to me. He wanted somebody to help him in finance and HR. So I became the commercial director of that company. I invested some money and expanded my activity. So by 1985, I was managing 2 companies. 87, I started one more. And so by 87, I was managing 3 companies. 2 were in a sort of a normal operation. Third one was a startup. So over a period of time, I got used to all this. But I think someday you feel tired of running around like this. So I did that for nearly 20 years. And at the end of 20 years, I gave back the company to other directors and took my share. And I said, let me now do something what I like. That's how I got into doing my PhD from 2002. So I did my PhD in the area of entrepreneurship. It was another interesting journey. And so I came out of my businesses, but I continued to be advisor or mentor for startups. I was a couple of years I spent in IIM Bangalore as a consultant. So post entrepreneurial life, I had another innings of enjoyable research work plus publishing papers, advising, mentoring startups. So that was the third phase I could say I got into. So it was good. I mean, I think every phase has got its own challenges as well as benefits. So you should take it the way it comes.
Yeah, that's true. It needs courage to take the risk and start something from the scratch. So what advice do you have for the students who wants to follow their passion and start something on their own?
Yeah, I think passion is more an emotion. So what is important I feel is one should know oneself properly. For example, in terms of competence in the area of business chosen. I was into R&D, so I was used to doing R&D work. And so anything to do with R&D plus production, I was quite competent. So 10 years of work had given me a lot of confidence. So whatever we take up, first and foremost is knowing yourself. That means in terms of your competence, networking, working with other people, chosen area of business, the knowledge about that business. So that becomes very, very important. First, I would say knowing yourself is very important. Second is you should be able to evaluate the resources you have at your disposals. It can be money or the people whom you are going to be partnering with or the family support. All these resources should be properly evaluated. Because in my case, I was already married, I had a kid, so I must have family support. It was very important. And I was partnering with somebody else, I must able to work along with them. Then I must have enough money to fall back in case I have problems in business. So evaluating the resources available at your disposal, I think, will be another important issue. The third, very important before you start a business, is understanding the market for the product or service that you are offering. In terms of competition, in terms of pricing, in terms of how you have perceived your consumers, all that, understanding the market is going to be very, very important. And I would say, if you want to get into a business, because I've been into business for a long time and working as a consultant, I would say you must have at least a back of the envelope business plan. So you must have a business plan where you make a pitch to somebody. It can be your family member, it can be a friend, any possible investors. Even if they want to put a 1 lakh rupee, they will have to think 10 times. So you must be able to convince them with your business plan. It should be realistic, it should be credible. So I think developing a business plan because today you have so many Google search frameworks are available, formats are available. So develop a business plan and make a pitch, at least to known family members and friends or people who are in business, if they know them well. Then finally, you have to understand the risks that are possibly involved. At least on paper, you should be able to mitigate that risk. How I am going to resolve the risk in case I am going to face such situation? At least you must have on paper some solution or some method. Typically, I would say if I am investing 10 lakhs, I should know my cash burn rate. Every month, how much I burn till I book my first order. So like that, risk should be understood, evaluated. Then what are the ways to mitigate? I would say these are the 5 points, like knowing yourself, evaluating your resources, understanding the market, developing a business plan, understanding your risk and how do you plan to mitigate that risk. I think this would be the 5 points I could say you should consider before you jump into business.
Yes, we must say we all should know, and keeping those things in mind, we should follow our passion. So we came to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all these valuable advices and stories which we could never get to listen from somewhere else. Thank you so much, sir. Lastly, thank you audience and stay tuned for further updates from UEC Chronicles.